The movie starts with a former soldier named Levan waking up in his car. It's clear he's living in it. No house, just his car. He gets out and heads to his job site, where we find out he's a construction foreman. The workers respect and like him. He encourages them to finish the job on time and even promises them a bonus if they stay on schedule. Then he goes into the company office and greets Carla and Joe, the company owners, along with their daughter Jenny. It's obvious they have a strong bond with Levan. They treat him like family. Jenny asks her dad for his credit card because she's planning to go out with her friends. At first, he refuses, worried about money, but eventually, he gives in and says yes. Suddenly, a car pulls into the site, and a bunch of thugs get out. They start beating up one of the workers. Levan tries to calm things down, but when they start insulting him, he snaps, turns into a beast. He throws nails and metal at them, fights them hard, and ends up chasing them off. The worker is shocked and thanks Levan, who just goes back to work like nothing happened. Jenny had seen the whole thing. She asks Levon if he used to be a soldier, because the way he fought was professional. She tells him her grandpa was in the army, and she's seen those same moves before. She asks him to teach her self-defense. He says no and tells her, "Don't tell your parents about what happened today. If you can keep that promise, maybe I'll teach you later." After work, Levan goes to see his daughter Mary, but he finds out that her grandpa Gordon has thrown her a party that same day, just to keep her from going with Levan. But Mary runs straight to Levan and gets into his car. Gordon shows up and talks to him in a provocative, nasty tone. He says he doesn't feel safe when Mary's with him because of his violent past, and reminds him that his wife died because of him. He's trying to push Levan into losing his temper so he can use it against him in court. But Levan stays calm and tells him her death wasn't my fault and drives off. He takes Mary to a diner and gives her a photo of her and her mom. Mary says she's upset with her mom for leaving and dying, and Levan's eyes show deep pain. Later, Levan goes to meet with his lawyer and tells him about Gordon's behavior. The lawyer says Gordon has a whole army of lawyers ready to win the custody case. He asks Levan, "Why does he hate you so much?" Levan explains that Gordon blames him for his daughter's death. His wife fell into depression because Levon was always away for work. In the end, she hurt herself and died. The lawyer suggests trying to make peace with Gordon, but Levan flat out refuses. He says he'll figure out the housing situation soon, since that's a weak point in the custody case. Later that night, Jenny goes out with her friends to a bar. There, she approaches a bartender named David and asks for a table. David flirts a little, tells her he'll give her a special table if she tells him her name. She tells him, and he points her to a spot. But then David secretly texts someone named Viper, who turns out to be part of a human trafficking ring. As soon as the message reached Viper, he grabbed his partner Artie, and they rushed straight to the bar. At the same time, one of Jenny's friends got sick from drinking, so Jenny took her to the bathroom. But as soon as Jenny stepped out, Viper ambushed her and kidnapped her. The next day, Carla and Joe met up with Levan. They told him Jenny had been missing since the night before. Her friends said she went to the bathroom and never came back. Joe begged Levan to help them find her, since he was a former soldier. But Levan refused. He was worried that getting involved in any violence could cost him custody of his daughter. Even when Joe offered him a large sum of money, Levon still said no and walked away. Levan then drove to see his friend Johnny, who lived in a house deep in the woods. From their conversation, we learned that Levan once saved Johnny's life on a military mission, but Johnny lost his eyesight. Levan told him what happened to Jenny, how much she meant to him, like his own daughter, but that he was torn because of his real daughter. Johnny encouraged him to go after Jenny no matter what, and finally, Levan made up his mind. He went back to Joe, who was watching an old video of Jenny playing piano. Joe told him Jenny once got offered a full music scholarship, but turned it down just to help him run the company. That's when Levan promised he wouldn't come back until he found her. Levan started investigating the night Jenny disappeared. He went to the bar where it all happened. There, he noticed David, the bartender, secretly dealing drugs behind the bar. Levan got suspicious. He walked out through the back door and saw the camera wire had been cut and some beads from Jenny's necklace were lying on the ground. He realized she'd been kidnapped and she must have fought back. Later that night, after the bar closed, David got into his car, but Levan had secretly attached a tracking device. It led him straight to David's house. Levan stormed in with a weapon in hand. He pulled out a photo of Jenny and asked David if he knew her. David denied everything, said he already told the police all he knew. Levan didn't buy it. He dragged David into the bathroom, covered his face, and turned on the water full blast. David started to confess. He said the people who took Jenny were extremely dangerous, and that if they found out he was talking, they'd kill his family. Levan ignored the threats and demanded names. Just then, two of David's buddies showed up and called out to him. David screamed for help, but Levan grabbed him and tried to escape. The two men opened fire and killed David. Levon shot back fast and took them both out. After dealing with them, Levan grabbed the cash they were carrying. When he saw the tattoos on their bodies, he realized they were part of the Russian mafia. The next day, Levan kept watch over David's house. Eventually, a car pulled up with two men and their leader, Volo. Levan watched as they went inside. He saw Volo get furious when he saw his men dead. When he realized the money was missing, he assumed it was a robbery. He ordered his men, Danny and Vanko, to find whoever did this immediately. Just then, a cleaning van showed up. Two women stepped out to clean the house and cover up the crime scene. Volo and his men got in their car and drove off. Levan followed in his own car, tailing them quietly. They arrived at Volo's house. Levan parked nearby, grabbed his gear, and hid in the trees. From there, he saw Volo inside, beating his wife. Once she stormed off, Levon slipped inside. As soon as he faced Volo, he threw hot coffee in his face and started beating him hard, knocking him out cold. When Volo came to, he found himself tied to a chair, with a rope stretching from the chair straight to the swimming pool. Volo looked at Levan and asked if he even knew who he was. Levan replied calmly, yeah, he knew exactly who he was, and also knew he worked for the Russian mafia. Volo threatened him, saying he made a huge mistake by killing his men and stealing his money, and that he, along with his entire family, would pay the price. But Levan didn't care. He slapped Volo across the face, threw the cash in his face, and told him, I don't want your money. All I want is this girl. He showed him a photo of Jenny and said she was taken from the bar where they were dealing drugs. Volo got angry and started shouting in Russian, something about a man named Demi. Levan told him he didn't understand a word, and offered a deal give Jenny back and he'd let Volo live. But Volo just cursed at him. So Levan cut the rope and let Volo drown in the pool. As he walked out, Levan pulled out his phone and revealed he'd recorded everything Volo said. Once the recording was translated, Levan found out Demi was the one responsible for Jenny's kidnapping. Not long after, the cleanup crew arrived, removed Volo's body and wiped away all traces of the crime. At the same time, Simon, Volo's brother, showed up. Simon was devastated by his brother's death. He reviewed the security camera footage and saw Levan killing Volo. Instead of panicking, he was impressed by Levan's boldness and decided to take revenge himself. He ordered his sons, bring him in alive. Elsewhere, we finally see Jenny in captivity. Artie enters the room, in disguise, carrying food and clothes. She pulls a gun on Jenny and threatens her, saying she better eat and change or she'll die. Meanwhile, Levan called up an old army buddy who now works in narcotics enforcement. He asked him about Demi and told him about the bar Demi owns. That night, Levan headed to the bar. Inside, Artie was watching everything on the surveillance cameras. She noticed Levon carrying a weapon and got suspicious. She told her partner, Chidi, to go talk to him. Chidi sat down next to Levan, who pulled out a wad of cash and set it on the table. Chidi assumed he was a customer and took him to meet the gang leader, Dutch. Artie warned Dutch that Levan was armed and might be a cop. Dutch questioned him. Levan explained he carried a weapon for protection because he had a lot of cash on him. Dutch asked him to empty his pockets. Levan refused and turned to leave. Dutch immediately ordered his men to stop him. A violent fight broke out, and no one could stop Levan. He grabbed one of them and was about to kill him, but Dutch yelled for everyone to stop. He stepped forward. Dutch told Levan his skills didn't look like a cop's and asked if he had military experience. Levan said he was ex-military and now worked in narcotics distribution. He claimed he had a big client base in Chicago. He explained he needed a steady monthly supply since his last supplier got busted. Dutch tested him by offering a certain price, but Levan pointed out that it was higher than Chicago rates. That convinced Dutch he was legit, and he gave him a meeting for the next day at a cafe for delivery. The next day, Levon showed up at the cafe. He met with Artie and Chidi, handed them the cash, and they gave him a special phone. They said he'd receive a call with the drop-off location. Levan took the phone, warned them not to try anything, and left. Once he was in his car, he got the call from Dutch. Dutch said the package was under the seat he was sitting on, and that this was just a test to make sure he wasn't being watched. He told him they'd reach out again the next day for the larger shipment deal. Levan hung up, and once he was far enough from the place, he tossed the whole package into the river. Later that night, Viper and Artie handed Jenny over to the buyer who had purchased her, a man named Jared. Jared handed Viper and Artie a bag full of cash and gold, then went to open the second case, the one with Jenny inside. But as soon as he got close, Jenny slashed his face. He stormed out, shouting, "Get her out of here and kill her." Meanwhile, Levan was in a small apartment. On the wall, he had pinned up all the photos and info he'd gathered. A full investigation board. He got a call from Dutch. The deal was on. Time and location confirmed. It was going down at an upscale restaurant, packed with guards and weapons. After a search at the entrance, Levan was surprised to see that the leader of the gang was none other than Demi, the guy he'd been looking for. Levon handed over the cash. Demi asked to see his ID. Levan gave him a professionally forged one, so good that when the guy ran it through, it came back clean. Demi handed over the bag of drugs and told him they had a lot of business ahead. Levan went to the restroom, dumped the entire bag down the toilet, and walked out. Back at his place, Levon sat down, going through pictures of Jenny and her friends. He focused in on one where Viper was looking at Jenny in a very disturbing way. He unlocked David's phone and discovered messages between him and Viper, realizing Viper was the one who kidnapped Jenny. He also found out Viper was a regular at the same bar run by Dutch's gang. So Levon went there and started surveillance from his car. But Artie spotted him on the security cameras. Since she knew Danny and Vanko were hunting for Levan, she gave them a call. They showed up fast. Levan jumped out of his car, hijacked a motorcycle, and a wild chase began. Danny and Vanko opened fire on him, but Levan weaved through traffic like a pro. Eventually, he crashed into a police car and wiped out. But to his shock, the cops handed him over to Simon's sons in exchange for a bribe. They tied him up and tossed him in their car. They told him Volo, the man he killed, was their uncle. Levan mocked them and made fun of their suits. They lost it and attacked him, but Levan fought back savagely. Danny tried to shoot him. Levan twisted his arm, and the bullet hit the driver. The car flipped. Levan crawled out, killed Danny and Vanko, freed himself, and pushed the wrecked car into the river. When Simon found out his sons were dead, he was in shock. He called for an emergency meeting with the top mafia leaders. At the same time, Viper and Artie were with Demi. Demi was angry that Jenny had injured Jared. Viper tried to calm him down, saying, "Don't worry, Artie and I will take care of her." Back at the mafia meeting, Simon told the other bosses what happened. One of them sent Nestor and Sefi, his strongest enforcers, and said, "They'll bring you the man who killed your brother and sons." Simon took them and went straight to Demi, figuring he was the last person who'd seen Levon. That's when we find out Demi is actually Volo's son, and the two never got along. In fact, Demi was happy his father was dead, but when Simon told him that Levan killed his cousins, Demi was stunned. He explained that Levan had introduced himself as a drug dealer and even showed a legit-looking fake ID. Simon said, "He was hunting you the whole time, and because of you, my brother and sons are dead." Then he walked out. Nestor and Sefi were able to dig up Levan's full information, and the next day, they went to Gordon's house, Mary's grandfather. At the same time, Levan was in his car when he got a call from the school. Gordon didn't come to pick up Mary today. Levan panicked. He rushed to the school and picked up his daughter himself, planning to drop her off with Gordon. But Mary was confused. She asked, "Why didn't Grandpa show up?" Levan's worry grew deeper. He could feel something was very wrong. Levan arrives at Gordon's house and finds it on fire. He jumps out of his car and rushes through the smoke inside, finding Gordon tied up and collapsed on the floor. Levan picks him up and drags him out just in time. Gordon blames him, saying it was all his fault. But Mary steps in and says, "He just saved your life." Gordon feels guilty and apologizes to Levan. Levan takes his daughter and heads to his friend Johnny's place. He tells him everything, including how he finally found Demi, the guy behind the human trafficking operation, and likely the one who knows where Jenny is. Johnny takes him to an underground weapons stash and tells him to pick whatever he needs for the mission. Levan says goodbye to Mary and Johnny and asks him to protect her. Meanwhile, Viper and Artie are driving down an abandoned road with Jenny in the back. They're planning to kill her, but Jenny kicks them from behind. The car crashes into a tree. She takes the chance, frees herself, and runs. She finds a police car and thinks she's saved, but the shock hits hard. It's the same corrupt cops working with Demi. They hand her right back over to Viper and Artie. Just as they're about to finish her off, Jared calls. He changed his mind. He wants her alive. At the same time, Levan arrives at the bar where Demi is. He sneaks in quietly and takes down Demi's guards one by one. Demi grabs a girl and holds her hostage, threatening to kill her. Levan shoots him in the hand, tells the girl to take the cash and run. He then asks Demi about Jenny. Demi denies knowing her at first, then admits there's a secret casino where high-profile clients buy girls like products. Levan throws Demi in the car and drives to the location. Right before they arrive, he asks him, "How can you sell girls like they're objects?" Demi replies, "Money is everything." Levan shoots him dead, takes his bag, and prepares to storm the casino. At the same time, Dutch finds out that Levan killed Demi and gathers his men to take revenge. Inside the club, Artie brings Jared to the room where Jenny is tied up and terrified. Jared walks toward her, ready to torture her. Suddenly, the building shakes with an explosion. Levan just blew up part of the club and launched his assault. He guns down everyone in his way. People scream and flee. Chaos everywhere. Dutch and his men arrive, but Levan moves fast, taking them out one by one. He faces Dutch in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Even with Dutch's strength, Levan overpowers him and ends him. Then he hears Jenny screaming. He runs toward her voice, finds Jared, and puts a bullet in him. He finds Viper and beats him to death. Jenny uses her legs to choke Artie until she dies. At that exact moment, Nestor and Seffi show up with the corrupt cops. But Seffi suddenly opens fire on the police car, blowing it up. Inside the club, Levon frees Jenny and tries to escape with her. Nestor and Seffi open fire. Levan takes cover, lines up his shot. One bullet. Seffi's down. Then he tosses a grenade at Nestor. Boom. Gone. He grabs Jenny, they hop on a motorcycle, and escape the hell behind them. Simon watches them ride off, and calls the mafia bosses. But the boss tells him, "This ends here. You stay away from Jenny and Levan." Simon protests, but the boss warns him, "Your personal revenge isn't worth the cost. Stand down or we'll end you." Simon goes silent, then screams in rage. The next day, Levan takes Jenny back home. Her parents open the door, shocked, then rush to hug her, tears in their eyes. They thank Levan for everything he's done. He returns to Mary, sits down with Johnny, and they have lunch together, smiling, finally at peace. And that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed the film, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to the first 1,000 subscribers. See you in the next summary.